This post sent me down a whole rabbit hole. Apparently people are still really mad at the astrology girlies, which like I understand. But also predicting key events that are going to trigger a moment that everyone knows about in the collective at any given time is like near impossible. There's so much going on behind the scenes and we're only being fed little breadcrumbs of what that is. About y'all, but like this whole, the election results, like what's happening right now with Trump assembling all these people, like it just doesn't feel fake to anybody else. It just doesn't feel like real. I don't know how else to describe it. It's a very strange feeling. It's very similar to when y'all asked me to look at Trump's chart back in June or July, whatever that was, for the election, and I told you then that it felt weird and I didn't see an election and I didn't I don't know, it was cloudy, it was foggy. It still kind of feels like that, even though we're living it, and these are like the results, right? I'm not saying this with any one result in mind. It's my belief that the system itself is broken, and maybe that's what I'm feeling, that it's crumbled. But I do understand it still is in place for the time being, unfortunately. So, it is what it is. And all I have to add to that is Mercury retrograde. Okay, Mercury retrograde. I know that those two words are really overplayed, but we are in the pre-shadow of Mercury retrograde right now. And what that means, there's 3 phases to every Mercury retrograde. I talked about this on the recent live I was on. If you're on that live, every single retrograde has 3 phases. The pre-shadow, which is when Mercury moves to the degree that it will eventually go back to, and that's when we leave post-shadow. This little graph explains it perfectly for those of y'all like myself that are visual. If you're in my membership, you know what this is. We've already talked about this. Well, Mercury will station retrograde all the way over here, right? At like 22.5 degrees. So we enter pre-shadow when Mercury begins at the place that it will ultimately move back to. So Mercury stations direct over here all the way at the end. It moves backwards to here, and then that's when Mercury is out of retrograde, when it goes direct. So the 3 phases are when we are in the pre-shadow, which began on November 7th, the day after the election. Mercury will station retrograde on November 25th, and then it will move back through these degrees for about 3 weeks until December 15th. So again, the first phase is before Mercury goes retrograde, and the first phase is all about what is coming up right now that we are going to reassess and reflect on and reevaluate what retrogrades are. Reevaluation and introspective reevaluation and reassessment of whatever came up in the first phase, the pre-shadow. So what's coming up right now? The election. What's going to be reassessed when Mercury goes retrograde? Phase 2, the election. And then what are we going to get more clarity around? What answers are going to come out after Mercury stations direct? And then we start to move forward on all that we reassessed and reflected on during the retrograde period. And that's phase 3. That's when we put everything that we have learned during the first 2 phases into actual practice and action. That's when we start to see the things that we reassessed actually be changed. So we move forward on them. And that will last, the 3rd phase will last until January 2nd. If you're also in my membership, I have said that the new year is going to be crazy. It is not a good time to go out on the new year. New Year's Day looks freaking crazy. If you want me to do another video on that, I will comment it. Give these things time, y'all. I feel like we're just in a pot right now before it boils. What are your thoughts? Let's chat about it in the comments as always.